Welcome to my channel. My name is Daniel. I am from Cambridge in the United Kingdom. I'm a classicist, so I studied Latin, Greek, and ancient history at university. That was for my undergraduate degree. I've got a master's in ancient history, actually, both from the same place. I like movies, all kinds of movies, international movies, and also Hollywood movies as well. I like just bumming out and watching TV shows. Probably my favourite is actually Game of Thrones, but that said, I actually enjoy the books more than the shows. If the next book ever comes out, I'll be so happy. I like reading, as you can probably infer from that. Video games. I like football and rugby, and I like alcohol probably a bit more than I should. I'm a budding alcoholic. I make my own cider. I'd quite like to get involved in making my own beer. Um, and I also, I'm very interested in politics and activism, and that's actually the main reason why I am starting this channel, because I think there's a lot of bullshit out there, and frankly, I would like to, do something about it. If I can make some videos and actually get people thinking about issues. I don't even necessarily want people to, in fact, I don't want people to just swallow what I say wholesale. I want them to actually think about what it is I'm actually trying to get across, and then, people think about what I'm saying, weigh up the evidence, and come to their own conclusions, because that's what I believe. So I should start, I suppose, with saying that I'm a libertarian, and I believe in a couple of things. So I believe in freedom of thought, as you can probably work out by what I've said. I think that people should, actually look at things critically, and that's something that doesn't happen anymore, I think. So people need to stop just, swallowing what the media, what other people tell them wholesale, and actually look at what is going on themselves, and work out for themselves what they actually think, or whether they think that what people are trying to tell them is plausible. I believe in personal choice as well, and personal responsibility. So, for example, recently the UK government introduced a tax on sugary drinks. It's not due to come into force until 2017. It's kind of beside the point. I don't believe the government has any business telling me what I should and shouldn't be drinking. Um, you know, I suppose with some substances, there are arguments that, the government should restrict what is available. So, for example, you know, you could make quite a compelling case against, the sale of heroin or crystal meth, because, that does have effects that's quite detrimental to society. Personally, as a libertarian, I think that the government, it's going to be sold anyway, so the government may as well just make it a government monopoly and tax the hell out of it, and you'd end up raising a lot of money like that. And by decriminalising it as well, you're probably pulling the rug under the feet of criminals as well, because you're taking away their livelihood. So I believe in personal choice. I believe, people should be free to choose, just exactly what they want to do, like whether they want to eat, 3 or 4 bits of vegetables a day, and not meet the 5 a day. I believe, well, I saw, for example, just today actually, a Gucci advert was banned because the model was too thin. Well, you know what? It's people's choice if they want to be that thin, if they don't want to be that thin. That's up to people. The government shouldn't have any kind of role in telling people they can't look at this or they can't look at that. Hand in hand with this is personal responsibility. If you're making your own choices, I think by and large people do make their own choices, I should say. But then also by the same token, people tend to pass the buck, and it's quite natural. You don't want all your mistakes to be yours. You don't want to fail. Everyone understands that. Everyone likes to have a convenient scapegoat, but people really need to take responsibility for their actions and their choices. And whether that's as stupid as I didn't lock my car and it got stolen, or I made a bad investment, now I'm broke, but that really was my fault. I should have read up on it more or whatever. Or me, for example, I honestly feel I could have gone to Cambridge Oxford University, but I'm a fucking lazy student and I didn't go there. So, that's my fault. I take full responsibility for that. So, I believe in personal responsibility, taking responsibility for one's own actions. As a libertarian, people might think this is a bit surprising, but it shouldn't be. I believe in society, and that's not something that the left has a monopoly on. It's not something that anyone has a monopoly on. Society is, it's where we live, it's the community that we live in, and quite often I don't really see much society, and it's probably a consequence of living in such big towns and cities. It's very difficult to foster a sense of community and a sense of society when you live pretty much anonymously. But I believe that people should actually do more for their community and their society, and this should be a personal choice. So I'm not saying we should force people into community service or force people to do things, but I think if people should actually, for example, take responsibility for their community instead of expecting the government or the councils to fix things. If people actually were to do some of it themselves, then you'd actually get some kind of a sense of community, sense of society, perhaps even some civic pride, who knows, and maybe things in certain areas wouldn't be so crap. Linked with this, I believe in small government. I don't think that it's the government's business to babysit us. The government shouldn't be telling us everything. We shouldn't need the government to tell us anything. So the whole nanny state that the United Kingdom has going on is absolutely ridiculous. It's a colossal waste of money, and again it goes back to responsibility, personal responsibility, civic responsibility. People expect the government to do everything. So for example, last week you saw a lot of people saying, the government needs to do more about the steel crisis, or not the steel crisis, a steel plant in Port Talbot in Wales is being sold by Tata Steel, which is an Indian company, and basically the steel plant is losing £1 million a day, or so they say. I haven't seen the statistics, but if it's not making money, that business isn't there just to provide people jobs. It's actually there to make money, and if it's not making money, there isn't an obligation for the government to prop it up and subsidise it just for the sake of keeping those jobs. And you may disagree with me, but unfortunately, if you want a free market economy, which I think most people agree is a good thing, then it's an unfortunate price of globalization. So yeah, another thing that I'm quite big on is the principles of the Enlightenment. So I agree with a lot of Enlightenment thinking. So notably, rationalism, empiricism. I believe in scientific method, and I don't mean chemistry, biology, physics here. I mean kind of basing your viewpoints on things that you have measured or things that you've seen, so you have evidence for it. So, for example, you could say, if I get hit by a bus at 40 miles an hour, I'm probably going to die, and I have quite sensible reasons for believing that, and it's not just an unfounded belief that I'm gonna die. There's a good chance that if a bus hits me at 40 miles an hour, I'm gonna die. So I think all these things put me at odds with the society in which I live in now, and with my peers as well. I've already said I did a master's degree. A lot of my friends aren't academics. You can imagine that they're not right wing at all. In fact, very opposite is true. They are raving Marxists and socialists. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They're still my friends, despite political disagreement. And you know what? That's the sign of a mature society, when you can have disagreement. I'm not saying that my way is the right way. It's not my way or the highway, certainly. I don't think they're right, but I can still like them as people, and I think, and I would encourage people to not just disassociate yourself with people that just because they happen to disagree with you on one thing, or even a couple of things. It's a bit immature, to be honest. It does go back, lead on to a point that I want to make about society nowadays. It's infantilized. I mean, you can see it. People expect the government to do everything for them, and it even goes to something that Stephen Fry was saying in a video I was watching the other day, the Rubin Report, with, I can't remember what his first name is, but he's an American YouTuber. Maybe it might be a TV program, I'm not sure entirely, but he does point out people are so infantilized nowadays. It's like it's the onesies that are designed for adults, or I mean, I suppose even like a lot of the movies that people choose to watch now, like, and I'm as guilty as it of everyone else, but in fairness, I do also watch a lot of other movies, but I'm buzzing for Captain America: Civil War, but if Marvel were to well, it's not R-rated for a reason, really, because Marvel wants it to market it to kids. Basically, they want to get lots of merchandise out for kids, and that's something that Deadpool wasn't done wasn't done for Deadpool, but again, and I kind of agree with him. It does point to an infantilization of society now. I think, like, kind of hand in hand with this is, people divorce themselves from responsibility. They expect other people to, pick up for their mistakes. Suddenly it's the government's business to make more houses for them, or it's the government's business to create more jobs, and it shouldn't be the case. It's not the responsibility of the government, and people believing that the government is only a power for good is naive in extreme. Like, years and years ago, I did this political compass thing, and it was just a stupid internet test thing. But I mean, back then, there was a question that was only people that are committing crimes need to be worried about surveillance. And yeah, on the one hand, I can see the logic in that, but still, I think it's dangerous to just let the government watch everything we're doing and listen to all our conversations. And I'm not saying that they do. Frankly, I know that Theresa May has better things to do than listen to my phone calls and read through my text messages and laugh at the dick pics that I send people. That's a joke, by the way. I don't send dick pics. And I've worked in customer services as well, so I know that the government doesn't have the resources to listen to every call that is made in the United Kingdom, on a given day, let alone across an entire year period. If the insurance company that I work for, if they don't have the resources to call up everyone who's missed a direct debit payment to chase them up for that, and instead rely on automated systems, then the government doesn't have enough resources to listen to what you're saying or read all your text messages. So I understand, and rationally, I know that the government isn't really listening to what everyone says, but it is also, it comes down to freedom of thought and personal choice. The government has no business listening in to what I say to people, and you can say that, well, for security sometimes it's necessary, but there is a quote from an American, I think it's probably one of the founding fathers, but I can't remember who it's by, but it goes along the lines of, if you are happy to give up freedom, a bit of freedom in the name of security, then you're basically happy to live as a slave. I can't remember who it is, and that's probably not a direct quotation. It's probably paraphrased, but unfortunately I didn't actually think about adding that quote in before, and so I don't have that research, so I'll maybe post that quote in the notes. So yeah, that's I don't believe in a big government. I don't believe that the government has a role in for example, making sure that arts get funded. I don't believe that the government has a role in creating jobs. I don't really believe that a lot of the things that the government legislate for, I don't believe that they have any business legislating for that. And certainly I don't believe that having a big government is the only solution to our problems. As I mentioned before, a lot of my friends are kind of Marxist and socialist, and I've got to say, it's quite perverse that you have people who, on the face of it, very tolerant. So you have these people, and they're like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can accept that there are 3 genders or 100 genders. They can they're happy to accept trans people, and they're happy that not every terrorist is a Muslim, and they want more immigration to United Kingdom. They want to welcome more refugees to United Kingdom, and I don't necessarily disagree with all those things. In fact, of all those things, the only thing I really can disagree with is there's more than 2 genders, which I think is frankly a bit silly, but that's for another video. Really what I'm saying is that these people are happy to go along with all these notions because they think that I'm under no illusions. They think that what they're doing is the right thing, and that's a good thing in itself. But they genuinely believe that their way is the only way of doing things, and any other way of doing it is wrong. And if you disagree with them, you're a fascist, or you're a misogynist, or you're a racist, or you're a homophobe, and you're a bad person, basically. And there's no debate about it with them, because they're already convinced that they're right. It's just dogma, and they don't have evidence to back up their claims usually. It is just, this is what I think, I'm right about it, you're clearly wrong, and you're a bad person for saying it, or for questioning it. So, I mean, a couple of months ago, when the refugee crisis in Europe was really kicking off, I just said that I don't disagree with welcoming refugees into the UK, but we need a long-term solution for it, which I don't think is an unreasonable position to take, because no country can just keep on admitting refugees and without any kind of end plan to it. It's irresponsible for a start and unsustainable. Now, the real solution, I think, for example, was sort out the situation in Syria, so people can actually go back there and rebuild the country. And how you achieve that is another question, but it seems self-evident to me that if you stop the problem at source, then that fixes the rest of the problem in a way. There'll still be other problems, clearly, and that's just one solution. There could be many others, but the way that I got shouted down, well, not shouted down, because I'm happy to listen to I'm happy to listen to valid points that are sensible and thought out, but people just calling me, for example, a racist or a xenophobe, that's not an argument, so I'm happy to disregard that. I think one of the things that I'm most unhappy about in society is this wave of anti-intellectualism that you notice now. So, like I said, people, they don't bother finding evidence to support their claims, or they don't understand the arguments. They regurgitate it. They sit somewhere and they regurgitate it, and that to them is enough. But that, to me, that's not an argument. That's that's not an intellectual debate. That's people engaging with it. It's not an informed opinion, and this passes for intellectual rigor. It's ridiculous, and I see this at university as well. So many university students aren't really they're not encouraged to actually challenge what they see. It's just, no, this is right, and even though I can't prove it, or I'm gonna doctor statistics to show that what I'm saying is correct, it's intellectually dishonest, and it's actually sickening that no one challenges it. And quite often I think I went to university with very intelligent people. Some people I went to university with a lot more intelligent than me, and they don't challenge things. They just accept everything, and they're happy with exactly what they can see. So I can tell my friends that men get a 66% longer sentence than women for the exact same crime, and people don't care. They just don't give a shit. And when I point out that for example, that statistic and the injustice towards men in the judicial system, and then I say, well, that clearly shows that women are not disadvantaged in the UK, certainly not in the judiciary system. They don't believe, well, they don't believe me. I'm not saying they should just take what I say, but it doesn't even prompt them to think about it, and that's probably the thing that bothers me the most. They're just happy to go along with whatever is mainstream and whatever the mainstream is saying, without actually questioning it. So that's my biggest bugbear of it, of modern society. So yeah, this has been my first video. I'll probably continue to make videos. A lot of them will be on the themes that I'm talking about today. So feminism is gonna have a whole load of videos made about it, but also things like the speed limit. I can't stand the speed limit, and I find it ridiculous. And the whole argument against increasing the speed limit is nauseatingly stupid. But these are the kind of things that I will end up doing videos about. For anyone wondering, I'm probably not going to show my face. Not because I have anything to hide. I am instead incredibly vain, and if I was to worry about how my hair looked, or I don't know, I'm not going to say how my makeup looks because I don't wear makeup, but it basically saves me a lot of faff, and that's probably a good thing. If I worried about all that kind of stuff, I would never get around to making videos at all. So yeah, it's for your benefit anyway, not mine. I'm not a good looking man, so there you go. Hit the subscribe button if you want more videos, and I will try and get more out as and when I have the time.